Well, guys, I'm glad I changed my pick because my pick was correct today. I changed my pick at the last second. You guys can see on the video I uploaded literally 10 minutes before the race started. Kyle Busch was supposed to start at the rear of the field today, so I took Kevin Harvick to win, and Kevin Harvick got the win today nevertheless. So it helped the fantasy team out big time. I'll go over the main points of emphasis of what happened in today's race. We'll recover it, and then we'll take a look at how the fantasy team lined up and take a look at some of the race results in today's race as well. So without further ado, here we go. Let's hop right on in. So the race started off, got into lap one. Everybody was wondering if there was going to be a huge wreck. There was a wreck, and the more the race got closer and closer to the start, I was starting to get a little more nervous that there was going to be a big accident. I was praying that there wasn't going to be a huge accident. Then I saw Ricky spin on the back stretch. I'm like, well, sure enough, it was him of all people to get things started. It looked like he tried to, he was so far down below the apron that by the time he was coming up the racetrack, which I'm sure running that far of an apex down on the apron, especially at Darlington, he was going to come up the track, probably unwillingly, but they were almost four wide, so that wasn't going to work out, and then he went into the inside wall. But after that, things pretty much calmed down until about the end of the stage came, in a heartbreaking moment. Jimmie Johnson was leading the race, about to win stage one, literally a couple hundred feet from the start-finish line, off of turn 4. He makes contact with the lap car of Chris Buescher in the 17, and Jimmie Johnson goes for a spin to the inside retaining wall, hits it head-on, and stops before the start-finish line, so he didn't even get any stage points either. Goes from first, and he ended up finishing all the way back in 38 today, so that was just a tough break for Jimmie Johnson. I felt bad. As soon as it happened, I literally yelled at the TV. I was like, oh no! It was heartbreaking. I'm not a Jimmie Johnson, fanboy, I guess you would say, but man, I've been pulling for Jimmie Johnson since, late last season. Just get one more win, Jimmy. I'm hoping you can get one more win in you and maybe make a deep playoff run. I root for Blaney week in and week out, but the weeks that he's not performing well, I hope Jimmy does well. So that was a tough break. He came into this race in the top 10 in points. I think he was either 6th or 7th. I want to say he was 7th. So that's going to be a huge points hit, only getting 1 point today, too. I know it's early in the season. It's only the 5th race. They got 21 races before the playoffs yet, but every race matters. Look at last year when Jimmy was on the outside looking in the last race, and he couldn't get it done. So you don't want that situation to have to come back on you. But he's going to be one of the favorites come Wednesday night, and we'll talk about that when we get into the pre-race predictions video for that night too. Also, what happened in the race, obviously, because he wrecked, teammate William Byron got the win, and then early in stage 2, Byron had a right rear tire go down. He was currently battling for third. He was in 4th because Hamlin got around him, but that was because Byron had a right rear going down already, didn't know it at the time. Then the next lap later, he gets into the outside wall, rear bumper first, had quite a bit of damage. He couldn't come back from that. I'm not sure exactly on his finishing position, but I don't think it was very good with that damage. He did obviously get the stage win in stage 1, so he did get a decent amount of points for that, but that was pretty much it. It was a tough break. He could have had a lot better of a day, that's for sure. Things didn't go his way. We pretty much had some single car incidents throughout the race today as well. Chris Buescher ended up going for another spin. I think that was towards the end of stage 2. He popped the inside wall just a little bit, not too hard, and then Christopher Bell did the same thing early in stage 3, and he hit the wall even later. But again, we just saw incidents where tires were starting to go down, and yeah, they would just get loose. The thing with Chris Buescher, they didn't really show exactly, they showed one clip of how it happened, but it wasn't the greatest angle. And it looked like Christopher Bell got into the back of Buescher, and they were about halfway down the straightaway, so I don't know what that was for. Maybe Buescher pulled a block on him, and Bell's like, no, you're not going to get a block, and he gave him a little tap, and around he went, because, again, it was halfway down the straightaway, so that was a really weird spot for that to happen. So Chris Buescher, he got in an accident there. He couldn't come back from it, really, and Christopher Bell, from his spin, he didn't really have a great day today. Again, I didn't think the rookies were going to have a great day, but then we saw guys like John Hunter Nemechek and Tyler Reddick running in the top 10. Reddick was in the top 10 basically the whole race, the back half of the top 10, and Nemechek wasn't there the whole race, but he came up late and got a top 10 finish. So 2 rookies in the top 10, that's something I did not see coming. That is for sure. Another thing I didn't see coming, Clint Boyer was running in the top 10 late in the race too, and then he had a piece of tape from the Blue Emu sign again, come up and got on his grill, or right on the nose of the splitter underneath the grill, it kind of looked like, but it definitely messed up the handling of his car the last 6 laps. I think he was already fading back as it was anyway. I think he was 11th or 12th when it happened. He fell all the way back to like 15, 16, so he lost like 4 or 5 spots in the last 6 laps of the race just because he lost the handling of the car on a little bit older tires just because of the sign ripping off. And obviously, like I mentioned, the Blue Emu sign, of course, of all things, ended up ripping off midway through stage 2, and I think that had to do with when Byron got into the wall, and I think Kyle Busch had slightly brushed the wall at one point in time too. That might have helped rubbed it off. And debris almost costed Reddick in the long run, if you think about it. His top 10 finish, and it got on Denny Hamlin's car too, and Hamlin was almost starting to overheat. He was running in the top 10 at the time, so that could have been a very bad situation. So it's good on NASCAR to call a caution there and pull the rest of that sponsoring adhesive off the wall. Hopefully they take any sponsorship adhesive they have on the wall off the wall for the Xfinity race going into Tuesday night, and obviously the Cup race again on Wednesday. But so that pretty much wrapped it up through there. Stage 2, Keselowski won. And what was surprising in Stage 3 is that Keselowski was a non-factor. He went straight backwards. And I think it's because the temperature was starting to drop. There was more cloud coverage than what there was in the first 2 stages. His car probably just didn't handle well. It obviously was getting a little bit darker by the end of the race. It wasn't completely nighttime yet, but it was getting to that point, especially on the East Coast over there in South Carolina. But I think the temperature drop and the cloud coverage in the final stage definitely was a factor on Keselowski not being towards the front like he was pretty much the whole race leading up to that point. Truex, for that matter, as well. He wasn't really... He finished in the top 10, kind of came on late, but he wasn't up in the top 3 or 4 like he was most of the race midway through. So I think that's what took a couple of those guys out at the very, very end. Then we had another spin that brought out the last caution. I believe that was the one where Ryan Newman had gone for a spin. He blew a rear tire as well. He didn't hit anything, though. He was able to come back and actually finish 15th, so not bad for a late comeback there. My guy, Ryan Blaney, he was a non-factor the whole race. Now, I didn't even mention him at all on my pre-race prediction video, and the reason was because when I was looking on Racing Reference, he hasn't had a good career at least a statistical career at Darlington, so I wasn't expecting him to really compete today for a win. I was hoping that he can get, run just outside the top 10 all day, maybe sneak into the top 10 late, but there was no signs of that. He was running 15th to 20th the whole race. At one point, I think late before that last caution, he was running 21st, and that's looking like Ryan Blaney early. No, not even early. I mean, I don't remember the last time Blaney's ran like that. Maybe Richmond last year or something like that, because he usually doesn't perform well at Richmond either. But, yeah, whatever the case, that wasn't a good run. I don't have very high hopes for him Wednesday night. Hopefully he can get it going. He was so strong first 4 races of the season. You hate to see that happen to him, but he's going to the track he's not good at after a couple months off. Definitely doesn't help. No practice or qualifying time. So it's rough to be a Blaney fan today, and probably will be on Wednesday night. I wouldn't be surprised either. He did look like he was starting to come on just a little bit later in the race, so maybe they were starting to click on something there. We'll have to keep an eye on that going forward. Obviously, again, it was getting darker, and with Wednesday night being a night race, I think the cars that you were seeing faster at the end of the race today, which obviously would be the finishing results, are going to be your faster cars Wednesday night. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case, especially, again, with no practice or qualifying time. Your practice time is basically this race here today, but it was for points, so it stunk for some of those guys, obviously, that either wrecked out or just didn't have as good of a day as they would have hoped. So after Keselowski fell outside of the top 10, I think that's what pushed John Hunter Nemechek into there. Also, Matt Kenseth, top 10 finish. He was running pretty much 10th to 15th the whole race. Not bad at all for not being in the car in well over a year. And with the 550 horsepower rules package, first time he's there, roughly the toughest racetrack, perhaps, voted by most NASCAR drivers on the circuit. So, I mean, 10th place. Good for him. I'm sure he'll be right around there again on Wednesday night. Kenseth could sneak in with a win. It wouldn't surprise me at this point. The way he ran tonight was a little surprising, but good for Matt Kenseth. So then you get a little later into the race. Your main competitors throughout, like I said, were Keselowski uh, throughout the race that wasn't taken out because of an accident. So we're gonna exclude Byron and Johnson. So you had Truex, and he was pretty much eliminated a little late in the race. Kind of fell behind. I think they had a bad pit stop or something. Another contender late in the race, Chase Elliott. He was coming on a little later again too. Maybe a couple more pit stops. They could have made some adjustments, but he just really didn't have the car at the very end. Kurt Busch looked strong throughout the course of the race. I figured he would have a fast car. I should have put him in the fantasy lineup. I don't know what I was thinking there. I even mentioned him. This would be a guy to take. I guess I was just trying to save on usages. I can guarantee you he will be in my fantasy lineup Wednesday night. Podium finish, third place for him. Alex Bowman was a contender throughout the course of the race. He led laps early on. He ended up finishing runner-up in second, but nobody could catch Jimmie Johnson. Bowman had a shot on that last restart. He was side drafting him for a couple laps, but once Harvick got that clean air out in front, that 4 car was gone. He's probably going to be the favorite Wednesday night. He was a favorite here tonight. So Kevin Harvick got the win for my pick. Again, let's take a look at the race results now, and then we'll hop in to see how the fantasy lineup did. So kind of like what we do on NASCAR Heat 4 after the full race live streams, we'll take a look at the top 10, slowly scroll through to see where your favorite drivers finished and where the notable finishers were is what we're going to do here. So again, Kevin Harvick got the win, Bowman second, Kurt Busch in third, Chase Elliott fourth, Denny Hamlin fifth. I had Harvick and Hamlin that both finished in the top 5 on my fantasy team. Truex sixth. Barely got around Tyler Reddick in the late going of the race there. And Reddick barely got around Eric Jones as well. I had Eric Jones on my fantasy team who finished 8th. John Hunter Nemechek, again, shout out to him, 9th place. Matt Kenseth rounds out the top 10. Another guy that was on my fantasy team, but I ended up putting in the garage, as you'll see a little later. That was a mistake. Austin Dillon, remember I said last five Darlington races, he finished in the top 12 in every single one of those. He was running basically outside the top 15 all day. Didn't think he was going to do it, but that last restart, they made a setup that made him look so much faster than what he was the rest of the race for those final roughly 35 laps to go or so whenever they went green. I think 34 to go on, and he climbed all the way up to 11th and almost got Matt Kenseth for 10th at the very end there. So a good finish for him. And then DiBenedetto 14th. He was the only other driver on my fantasy team there. So not a bad day fantasy-wise. And then Kyle Busch had problems late. He came down onto pit road. He had just snuck into the top 10 before having his issue. It took him all race to get there after starting at the rear. Again, I posted a video. I know in my predictions video, I originally had Kyle Busch winning. And then as soon as he had to start at the rear of the field, I'm like, nope, not at Darlington. That's too much ground to overcome, especially with no practice time. I think he'll be better Wednesday overall, especially into the nighttime, as you would usually see a Darlington race, especially as of the last few years. It would start in the daytime, finish in the nighttime. But today it was mostly in the day, and Kyle Busch just didn't have the handling. It was a hot, slick day, 85 degrees. I'm sure it was tough for those drivers, especially inside the race car as well. And then, there you see the scroll through the rest of the field. Your DNFs, Quinn Houff, Garrett Smithley, Jimmie Johnson, BJ McLeod, and Ricky Stenhouse. I think Houff just pulled off the track at some point in time. Byron was in that wreck, but he did finish about 13 laps down, so he was still running laps at the end of the race. And, of course, the incident, we talked about Jimmie Johnson. And I think BJ McLeod shows that he had an engine issue, but I'm thinking he just started and parked because he didn't run that many more laps than Stenhouse, so he got a free position out of it. Good for him, money-wise, running his own equipment too. I wouldn't be surprised. That was pretty much a start and park, so forget the fact that it says engine there. All right, so let's see where the fantasy team stacked up. I pretty much briefly explained it already, so I'll go through this kind of quick. So we had Eric Jones on the team. He got 30 points today, only one stage point. And this is the first career race at Darlington that Eric Jones did not finish in the top 5. But he keeps his top 10 streak alive. He's 4 for 4, and he does come home with a 7th place finish in this one here today. So good for, 8th place finish for this one here today. So again, top 10. He'll probably be on my fantasy team again the next night. We'll see if he can go 5 for 5 at Darlington in the 5 races there as far as finishing on the top 10. He's very good at this track on his career. And we've only used him once, and that was today. So, again, you can bet he'll be in my lineup. Kevin Harvick, a late sub. Again, I took Harvick out. I know it didn't make much sense in my predictions video. All that I talked about Kyle Busch all went away when he failed pre-race inspection, not once but twice, so had to restart at the rear of the field in this one. So I put Harvick in despite the usages. I knew he was going to be fast, and I was debating on him to win. I just really didn't want to use him up too much early in the season. You can see we've already used him up 4 times this season already, and unfortunately, I think I'm going to use him again at Darlington coming up Wednesday night because I think he's going to be one of the guys to beat. Even if he doesn't win it again, he'll definitely be competing for the win, if not at least be solidly inside the top 10. You got a lot of stage points, 14 here today. Didn't win a stage, but got the race win, most importantly. Matt DiBenedetto, I subbed him in right before the end of the second stage because he was running barely outside the top 10. And at times, he was in the back half of the top 10 today. But then late in the race, something just didn't go right. And role reversal between DiBenedetto and Austin Dillon, because that's who I subbed him out for, of course. Austin Dillon, like I said, running 15th, 20th all day. I just thought that top 12 streak was going to come to an end, but not quite. Austin Dillon now 6 races in a row. He has finished in the top 12 at Darlington. That's just unbelievable. Nobody tends to think about that, and I think I might be literally the only I think I might be the only guy that actually knows that stat now just because I looked it off of Racing Reference earlier this morning when I was trying to figure out a last guy to put my lineup. Hey, I'll have to remember that, I guess, when we go into Wednesday. It'll be tough to do that 2 times in 1 week for Austin, but hey, he's done it 6 times in a row now from year to year, so maybe he can get it done again. There's a good chance he might stay on the team. But anyway, Denny Hamlin again, 11 stage points, good day, 43 points total. Brad Keselowski, 40 points total, he got 16 stage points. Again, most of his points today came in the first 2 stages because he only got 24 points for finishing position. Again, he fell out of the top 10 late. And then, of course, the bonus points there. I predicted Keselowski to win stage 1 because he was on the pole and we were going to have a competition yellow. And he led most of the laps, but he kind of faltered a little bit later. I think he finished 5th. And Harvick was coming on strong throughout the course of the race today, slowly but surely. He got up to 4th at the end of stage 2, so didn't quite get to the lead then. But for the final stage, it was all Kevin Harvick. He got the win. Therefore, Ford got the win. So I got 20 bonus points added on to that. My total coming in was 746, so I was ranked 12,195th overall, which really isn't that bad, especially because we had a bad week somewhere in there. I can't remember what race we didn't have a good week. I want to say it was Vegas on the second race of the year, but that really put me way behind because outside of that, we've had really, really strong weeks in fantasy. So let's take a look at how many points we had in this one. The roster should say here. Now it's just showing all those. Well, it's showing the individual points. I don't want to do the math in my head. There we go, 210. All right, let's go to the league, I guess. So I'm in the NASCAR Weekly Podcast Fantasy. So if you guys don't watch the NASCAR Weekly Podcast on YouTube, I highly recommend it. I watch it as much as I can. Obviously, I've been streaming Wednesday nights, so I haven't really been able to watch it live, but I definitely tune back in the next morning when I'm not streaming. Listen in. It's fun. But anyway, ended up getting 5th overall, so not too bad. 210 points total. Again, we're keeping the season alive, and I think I came in like 6th or 7th too, so I might actually be the points leader at the end of this one. Again, we'll check that out again Wednesday night on the predictions video. That's going to be all for this one. So for more daily NASCAR content, such as videos like this, hit the subscribe button down below. And hit the like button if you enjoyed this predictions video. Voice your comments down below. See what you thought of the race. Who you predicted to win the race. Were your predictions correct? What you thought of the race, etc. I'll be happy to read the comments and reply back. Already have started the process of that on the pre-raced video. So I will do that again with you guys here. It's always interesting to talk NASCAR, even if it isn't person to person. Hope you guys have a happy rest of your late Sunday night, and I'll hope to see you again soon. Next full race live stream on NASCAR Heat 4 will be tomorrow night at 8:15 Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you then. Hit the bell notification button so you guys don't miss an upload, and I'll catch you next time.